This is a stick of RAM. 32 gigabytes, the kind that goes in your laptop. In June of last year, you could buy one for $91. Then this happened. $367, a 4x increase in under a year, and it briefly touched $500. This is a different brand, same thing. 47% in 4 months. RAM prices are up 90% in the first quarter of 2026 alone compared to the end of last year. This is not a supply chain hiccup. This is not a tariff. This is not temporary. The chairman of the world's largest memory producer says this lasts until 2030. This is where your RAM went. If you tried to buy a graphics card this year, you already know something is wrong. A report tracking 14 GPUs across 10 regions globally found that graphics card prices went up 15% in just 3 months. That's the average. The reality for many cards is much worse. The factory price of the RTX 5090 started the year at $1,999. It's expected to reach $5,000. That's a graphics card, one component inside your computer, for the price of a used car. And it's not just the expensive cards. The RTX 5060, the card regular people actually buy, is up 10 to 11%. The RTX 5070, 14%. The 5060 Ti, 22%. AMD isn't immune either. The Radeon 9060 XT is up 15% globally. The 9070 XT is up 21% in the US market alone. Nvidia has paused production of RTX 50 series graphics cards for the first 6 months of 2026, and their CFO Colette Kress says the memory shortage will affect their operations all the way into 2027 and perhaps longer. Both Nvidia and AMD have announced phased price increases, not one-time adjustments, monthly. Starting January and February, they began raising prices every single month with no announced end date. But here's the detail that explains all of it. The average share of memory in the manufacturing cost of all GPUs has recently exceeded 80%. 80%, the graphics card in your computer, the thing you think of as a processor, a computing chip, 4/5 of its cost is now memory. The same memory that went from $5.50 to $20 per chip in the space of a few months. When memory gets 4 times more expensive and memory is 80% of your cost structure, you don't have a choice. You raise prices, or you stop making the product entirely. And Nvidia is doing both. They've cut GPU supply to their manufacturing partners by 15 to 20%. In 2022, gaming graphics cards accounted for 35% of Nvidia's revenue. By 2025, it was 8%. AI chips carry profit margins of about 65%, gaming cards about 40%. If you're Nvidia and you have a limited supply of memory and silicon, where do you send it? Not to your computer. And it's not just GPUs and RAM, it's everything. Dell says hardware costs will increase 15 to 20%. HP's CFO has stated outright they will need to increase prices. Lenovo has revised its pricing for 2026. The very concept of an affordable entry-level PC is dying. A Gartner forecast says a pre-built PC costing $500 or less will become a thing of the past by 2028. Sony may be pushing the next PlayStation to 2029. The Xbox Series X is facing its third price hike in 12 months. Valve delayed its Steam Machine indefinitely. Nintendo can't rule out raising the price of the Switch too. Your $500 phone might cost $600 later this year. Samsung's co-CEO warned at CES that price hikes across all their products are inevitable. Apple has already agreed to pay Samsung double the price for LPDDR5X memory just to secure supply. Smart TVs, Wi-Fi routers memory used to be 3% of a router's manufacturing cost. With a 600% price increase, it's now 20%. Cars, hospital equipment, farm tractors. Smartphone sales are expected to drop 12.9% this year. PC shipments down 10%, not slower growth, fewer actual devices. The market shrinking because the parts cost too much. You have probably felt this, you might not have known why. Here's why. OpenAI has secured 40% of the world's DRAM supply for the coming years. Now multiply because it's not one company. It's hundreds of projects at dozens of companies, all racing to build the same thing at the same time. 95% of the world's DRAM is made by just 3 companies, Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron. And those 3 companies are choosing AI over you. AI customers pay top dollar, place large long-term orders, and operate on fat margins. Consumer electronics makers operate on thin margins and are price-sensitive. When supply is constrained and concentrated, suppliers choose which customers to prioritize. You are not the priority. This is Colossus, Memphis, Tennessee, a former appliance factory on the bank of the Mississippi River. Doesn't look like much from the outside. Inside is the largest AI training cluster in the world. Over 100,000 Nvidia GPUs connected with exabytes of storage over a superfast network. Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, the same company whose gaming cards you can no longer afford, called this, quote, easily the fastest supercomputer on the planet. It was built in 122 days. A supercomputer of this size normally takes 3 years to plan and another year to deploy. Colossus went from an empty factory to the world's fastest in 4 months. 19 days from the moment equipment arrived to actual AI training. Jensen calls it singular, never been done before. Let me show you what's inside, because every component in this building is a component that didn't go into your computer. Inside the data hall, the system uses a raised floor design. Power above, cooling below, GPU cluster in the middle, 4 data halls, each holding 25,000 GPUs. Each rack holds 8 Nvidia HGX H100 systems, 64 GPUs per rack, 16 CPUs, all packed into just 4 rack units of height per system. Built by Supermicro, the most advanced AI racks ever deployed at this scale. But it's not just the GPUs that are emptying the shelves at your local computer shop. Look at what else is in each rack. Every GPU is packed with high-bandwidth memory from SK Hynix, terabytes per second of data flowing into compute cores. Each system also has massive amounts of DDR5, the exact same DDR5 that goes in your laptop. 64 gigs per system, 96 in higher configurations. Multiply by 8 systems per rack, multiply by thousands of racks. Petabytes of SSD storage stream training data fast enough to keep every rack busy. Those SSDs use the same NAND flash memory that goes in your laptop's hard drive. The same NAND that's seen a 246% price increase. Every component in this building, GPUs, CPUs, RAM, SSDs, networking chips, fiber optic cables, comes from the same global supply chain that your laptop, your phone, your PlayStation, and your smart fridge depend on. And here's the thing about this building. Every single chip in it is running round the clock at such high capacity that occasionally one melts. There is not a single dark chip in this facility. And when one breaks, and they do break at this scale, each rack is designed so a technician can pull the tray, swap the component, and slide it back in within seconds. Blue lights on the back of each rack mean healthy. Red means service needed. Walk down the hall, spot the red light, replace the unit, keep the machine running. Because this machine cannot stop. It is training an AI that its creator believes could become the first true artificial general intelligence. You don't turn that off to let someone else have the parts. But this is just one building. Colossus was Phase 1. Colossus 2 is under construction right now, a few miles away. Over 550,000 GPUs scaling toward 1 million, all stitched into a single working machine. At peak, it will draw 1.2 gigawatts of power, enough electricity for more than 2 million homes. It is a $20 billion facility. Roughly half of that went to silicon and hardware. The same silicon, the same memory, the same wafers. To build this thing, they had to solve problems that sound like they belong in a different industry. Memphis could spare 50 megawatts of power. Colossus needed 1,000. So they shipped gas turbines from Europe in containers, reassembled them in Mississippi, and had them spinning within months. 7 Titan-class units, 35 megawatts each. Those turbines created millisecond power fluctuations that would crash GPU training runs that cost millions of dollars in compute. So they installed 208 Tesla Megapacks, giant batteries that absorb power from the grid, smooth out every spike, and discharge perfectly stable electricity into the training cluster. They needed millions of gallons of water per day for cooling, so they built the world's largest ceramic membrane bioreactor, a wastewater treatment plant on campus. 13 million gallons a day of recycled Memphis sewage turned into cooling water. Power infrastructure alone was 20% of the budget. Cooling was another 15%, roughly $3 billion. Billions spent before a single server was installed. And Colossus is just one player. OpenAI and Microsoft are building Stargate with total planned capacity reaching nearly 10 gigawatts of power. The flagship campus near Abilene, Texas targets 1 gigawatt by 2026. Switch's Citadel campus in Nevada 650 megawatts, 250,000 GPUs. Hundreds more are breaking ground across the US, China, and Europe. Every new generation of AI requires roughly 10 times more compute power than the last. That means 10 times more GPUs, 10 times more memory, 10 times more of everything drawn from the same finite pool of manufacturing capacity. The chairman of SK Hynix, the world's top DRAM producer, said it at Nvidia's own conference. The shortage lasts until 2030, at least 4 to 5 years, more than a 20% shortage of the wafers themselves. New fabs won't come online until 2028 at the earliest, and the memory makers aren't rushing to overbuild because they don't want to risk a glut. They'd rather enjoy the profits. So the supply is constrained, the demand is exponential, and everything in between, your laptop, your phone, your game console, is caught in the middle, competing against buildings that spend $20 billion without blinking. There's a term for what happens when companies give you less for the same price. When your bag of chips gets lighter but the price stays the same, shrinkflation. It's happening to your computer. Take the jump from the RTX 3060 to the RTX 4060. The physical chip inside the 4060 is much smaller than the one in the 3060, cheaper for Nvidia to manufacture, more power efficient, but the performance improvement was barely noticeable, and the price didn't go down. What you got instead was a software feature, frame generation, a trick that makes games look smoother by creating artificial frames between real ones. Not more power, not more speed, a workaround. The RTX 5050, the latest entry-level card, doesn't match the raw performance of the card one tier up from the generation before. It has slightly worse power efficiency, the same amount of video memory, and represents less value than the 4060 it replaced. The marketing focuses on features exclusive to the new architecture, not fundamentals. This is how GPU shrinkflation works. The chip companies take a smaller, cheaper die, label it one tier higher than it deserves, and charge accordingly. What Nvidia calls a 4060 today might have been called a 4050 2 years ago. What they call a 4070 would have been a 4060. The numbers on the box went up. The silicon inside did not keep pace. And now, on top of the relabeling, the prices are going up too, because memory is 80% of the cost, and memory costs 4 times what it did last year. You are paying more for less, and the reason is not that the technology couldn't be better, it's that the resources that would make it better are going somewhere else. Where? 64 GPUs per rack, thousands of racks per building, hundreds of buildings being built right now. Each one stuffed with the memory, the silicon, the manufacturing capacity that used to go into making your next computer a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit cheaper than the last one. That cycle is broken, and nobody is telling you when it comes back. Here is where it stops being a hardware story. Elon Musk, the man who built Colossus, describes what the machine is training. Grok 4 is, according to him, better than PhD level in every subject. No exceptions. Each new model is increasingly built by the one before it. Humans are getting less and less involved in the recursive self-improvement loop. He says we're in the hard takeoff right now. At Davos, he put it plainly. Anything that involves tapping keys on a keyboard and moving a mouse, AI can do that. Half of all white-collar jobs are replaceable right now. Not in 5 years. Now, people who know how to use AI are replacing those who don't. He calls it a supersonic tsunami. There is no on-off switch. So here is the split. On one side, companies and individuals with access to AI compute. Their costs are going down. AI gets cheaper to use month over month. Efficiency compounds. Engineers become multiple times more productive. On the other side, everyone else. The laptop they need costs $4,000 and climbing. The RAM inside it costs 4 times what it did last year. The GPU they want doesn't exist. Nvidia isn't making new consumer cards this year. The phone they carry costs $100 more. Their game console is delayed. The components that would make their tools better, faster, cheaper, those components are inside a building in Memphis, training a model that might make their job obsolete. The machine that's supposed to create abundance for all is being built, with the parts that everyone else needs to stay in the game. And the people building it know this. Elon said at Davos that the future is amazing abundance. Robots will saturate all human needs. Everyone on Earth will have one. But today, a 32GB stick of RAM costs $367. The shortage lasts until 2030. The GPU supply is being cut 15 to 20%. Prices go up every month, and the AI that's supposed to save everyone is being trained on hardware that was taken from the people it's supposed to save. The abundance is being built. The building materials are being taken from the people waiting for it to arrive. In June of 2025, a stick of DDR5 RAM cost $91. Today it costs $367. The memory that makes your computer work, the memory that makes your phone work, the memory that makes your game console work, 80% of the cost of a graphics card is now memory. OpenAI has locked up 40% of the world's supply. Western Digital sold out its entire year of storage in February. In Memphis, a building full of 100,000 GPUs is training an AI that its creator says has a shot at being the first true artificial general intelligence. A few miles away, they're building a bigger one. 1 million GPUs, each one packed with the same memory your laptop needs. The shortage lasts until 2030,